Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are, and welcome to Mini Indie Game Reviews, a place where we'll be talking about indie games that are quick, sweet, and straight to the point. Today we're going to be talking about the indie title We Never Yield, which is a sequel to the game Never Yield. We did a review for that original release if you want to check out and see what we had to say about it. Side note, since the release of Never Yield, a huge patch was released for it, entitled, well, the update. It comes with more visuals, bells, and whistles to give you a more complete experience. Both games was created and developed by Neil Jones, who goes by the moniker Ariel Knight. Another entity known as Jester accompanied Mr. Knight within developing this game, and they've also helped a couple of other titles that you can check out for yourself. Head Up Games will be serving as the publisher, whose resume is filled with so many indie titles that more than likely, over here, we're going to be playing through them. I'll provide links in the bio so you can check them out for yourself. During the time of this review, Mr. Knight is working on a first-person shooter where people are falling out of planes called Drop Shot. I peeped out the title and saw a sword that remind me of a certain someone. You can now wishlist Drop Shot and go ahead and support that title. Links will be in the description below. As far as today's review, I'll be rocking out with the PlayStation version, so let's get into it. The story of We Never Yield picks up some time after the events of the first game, where our lovable protagonist Wally and his brother Lone are seen to be captured. A few things happen, and now a formidable entity is after the possession of something that Wally possesses. This leads to the two brothers to discover their heritage and their history. It pretty much turns into a family affair, with the relative disagreeing in what was written in the will for the relative to inherit. I probably said too much, but that's pretty much it. We Never Yield visuals is somewhat of a step up from the first title. I guess you could say that things get a little bit more up close and personal, and unlike the first title, here we have a little space to look around, which only helps the world building. Case in point, the various hubs that Wally finds himself in at the beginning of each chapter, and also the ability to interact with their brother. The angles and cinematic looks are more action-packed and detailed, along with the character designs depicting just how much they've matured since the first game. One of my favorite visual animations is when Wally transforms after he powers up. To me at least, I am watching this independent game developer grow and mature within his craft. And up on top of that, he's mostly making this game by himself. So I mean, give him props, y'all. But yeah, to me personally, this is a step up from the first game, and I'm just seeing him grow. We Never Yield follows within the same footsteps as its predecessor, as far as it being what some gamers like to call an endless runner. Essentially, the gameplay mechanics is centered around the player inputting the correct commands at the proper time to dodge obstacles and stay alive long enough to make it to the end of each stage, while always being on the move. So in this case, it will be broken down into a few commands that are all prompted via color coordination that corresponds with the correct action to take. These actions consist of jumping, associated with the color red, sliding with the color of dark blue being present that gives the player the ability to slide as long as you like whenever you hold this button down, and trust me, it will be needed. You also have attacking obstacles and enemies, which displays this light blue color. And lastly, unlocking doors or preparing to transition to another section of the level with the correct input that is associated with the color yellow. These are the controls, if not identical to the first Never Yield title. However, this time around there are some noticeable additions, and I'm not just talking about the visual aesthetics. Since Wally isn't going to be handled this alone, his brother Lone will also be accompanying him, which in this case the player will be controlling him too, simultaneously at the same time at that, meaning that the player will be inputting commands and is now responsible for both brothers. If one of them is hit or fails one time, the player will pick up from the last checkpoint. Luckily, it's never that unforgiving from where you continue. In other words, you don't have to worry about restarting from the beginning of the level or go all the way far back and have to work up to where you pretty much failed at. Once the player gets used to the controls, they can up the challenge by adjusting the difficulty to the point where the obstacles will come at you fast and without warning. In other words, you better have some intimate knowledge on what's going to be occurring and when it's going to be occurring, because that color coordination, that color warning, yeah, say bye-bye to that. But then, on the opposite side, the player has the option of somewhat lowering the difficulty to the point where they can just control one of the brothers. We Never Yield puts emphasis on getting better because, well, when you're better, you are rewarded with points that factors into your grade score at the end of every segment. Now, why is this important? Well, it dictates the number of stars that you will receive at the end of each stage, and these stars serves as currency to rack up to purchase cosmetic changes to the brothers' appearances or their weapons. One criticism that I have towards the gameplay, or, well, rather a word of advice to the players, and that is to please work on your timing when putting in the proper inputs. Paying attention to the time and distance of your character is paramount. So the presentation isn't the only thing that received the upgrade of sorts. This time around, we have voice actors to give these characters defining personalities.
Yeah, second Florin's powers are always too random to risk.
Tell me that again and see what happens, Wallace.
The two brothers crack jokes and display a level of chemistry that could have been easily overlooked if we just simply went by text that I was reading instead of hearing them.
Maybe we'll find another way back. Or maybe run into the person that put us in those chains. I know how much you love payback. Deal? I'll take that as a yes.
Indeed.
This was an element that I believe that was sorely missed within the first game, where we just saw things happening sometimes without gaining the full context of the events occurring. Because of the mere fact that we have dialogue here, We Never Yield not only pushes the story forward,
With her last breath, the queen used her magic to send her sons to a distant land, carrying the crown that bestowed the power of kings.
but better fills in the details of the first game by providing a better feel of the characters from hearing them.
I'm sorry.
4?
You know what for. Letting them take you for what they did to you. I can imagine how you must have hated me for handing you over. I thought you would be safe. Sure, they would run tests to find what let us use that power, but I never thought it would go that far. I swear, I would have broken you out. I would have.
Chill. I never hated you, Lone. Them? Sure. But not you.
Now, although people are now speaking is a strength presented within this title, sounds can clip or sound a bit rough at times. Moments where I feel that a bit of sound effects could enhance the quality of the experience can be met with silence. Although the sound of the player jumping through walls and things on different levels sounds epic every time. But this isn't something that's a deal breaker. More than likely, I would not be surprised if Ariel Knight drops an update of sorts, just like he did the first title. We Never Yield sees the return of Neil J. and Daniel Wilkins, who takes charge of providing the music compositions. This time around, both returns bigger, bolder, and more fierce. In the first game, Never Yield, they gave us some hip-hop and jazz feels, and here we get more of a modern twist and more blends of genres. For example, on tracks like Unity of Ibeji, Princess Past, and Karmic Theme, we get a taste of fiery classical music melodies coming from the string instruments, along with a strong orchestral presence layered up on top of urban trap beats with this booming bass and hi-hats going crazy. On one of the tracks entitled Wally's Theme, it features Megan Rand, real name Jaheim Jarbo, on the mic. On your spare time, I want you to check out this artist. This dude has a big discography. Not to mention he's been putting in work for years. So yeah, support him. Links will be in the description below, so yeah, you can go ahead and check out his works. And as you listen, the soundtrack takes a turn into the rock and punk rock direction on We Ride Through Chaos, Surpassing Limits, and Emperor's Theme. We get these electric guitars going dumb with the riffs. Kinda reminded me of works like Coheed and Cambria and Deftones. We also hear the presence of a little bit of drill music, and in my opinion, specifically UK drill music. You can hear that on tracks like The Path We Take. Then, in my honest opinion, we have songs where it feels like it's a return to form with the spirit of the first Never Yields on the track V for Vengeance. On this song, we have this jazzy up-tempo melodies coming from the horns on these godlike drum breaks that only gets better. Like, on this song, yeah, they're not coming to play with y'all on this. To me, this song gets the adrenaline going, heart pumping with so much soul and personality that it's just godlike. If you can't tell, this is one of my favorite songs. But the Other favorites of mine are the songs entitled Convergence, and seemingly is part 2 in the follow-up track Divergence, and then part 3 entitled Inert Wing Fate Remix. From listening to these tracks, I can imagine a 200-piece classical orchestra performing this song right beside a HBCU marching band coming through with an attitude on a serious mission just to straight up own the competition. The last element that I would think is present within making these tracks are turntables with a sprinkle of scratches for style. But overall, the music of We Never Yield is nothing, and I mean nothing, to just sleep on. Laziness is not present here, only top-notch quality. This is not just an original soundtrack, this is an album. But don't take my word for it, you can listen to the original soundtrack for yourself. I'll provide links below so you can check them out for yourself. We Never Yield can be seen as an evolutionary step in Area Knight's ability to create games, a good continuation of Wily's adventures, and also contributes more to the world building and lore. I mean, come on, we went from the metropolitan area-like environments within the first game to now finding ourselves within this ancient Aztec-looking world, where little did we know that these two relatives are derived from via their heritage. The voice acting is on point, the music is banging, and I can't wait for the sequel. The gameplay is very simple to pick up, and is really fun to play with others. We Never Yield is now available for Epic Games, PlayStation 4 and 5, Steam for PC, and Xbox Series S and S for $15. And until next time, peace y'all.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit up that notification bell, and I gotta go.